Welcome, everybody. So happy you could be here on this fine day for a mini workshop on self-sabotage, something so painful and distressing. So I hope to have give you some really good, powerful information, some of my own experience in healing this process of self-sabotage, even though, thoughts and feelings are always happening and there's always more looking, but just nothing that actually winds up deeply hurting me on a real visceral level, third-degree burn type of way. And I hope that you'll find that by the time we're done with our process today. So my whole thing is I love to share how to navigate difficult situations and be in them and stay true to yourself in a way, as we say it. Feel that inner balance that's always available. It doesn't get clouded over by thoughts and feelings like we do when we have so much self-sabotage running, and making conscious decisions, in other words, not sort of unconscious, feeling like something's coming up that feels very overwhelming and like we're just being grabbed by emotion or thought process or the behavior itself. So I welcome you, since I know this was something that kept me searching for a long time. And I'm glad to be able to share about it from this side now. All right. Feel free to put questions in the Q&A. I may or may not see them right away, but you're totally welcome to do that while we get going. So I like opening with this. Leonard Cohen, the beautiful poet and songwriter, philosopher, that said, there's a crack in everything. That's where the light gets in. And I like to think of this process as being a big giant crack. So just consider today for this moment, and instead of such a huge problem, maybe there is a crack in this process and it's actually where light is getting in, where there's some sort of invitation here for me through this experience that I've had that's been so painful. I'll tell you a little more about mine when we get there in a moment, but what we'll cover today is how to at least approach our self-sabotage so that we can use it, like that it's something that is letting light in potentially, so we can use it to learn and grow and expand instead of tighten down and suffer and shrink, which I know is the norm when it comes to these kinds of difficult things. I'm going to share 3 secrets that I hope will revolutionize the way you've been dealing with your self-sabotage, the way we approach change itself, and that you'll feel relaxed, at least more relaxed about your self-sabotage by the time we're done. And then just maybe a sense of greater confidence and the empowerment that already exists inside of you somewhere. Just doesn't feel like it when it comes to this thing, whatever it is that you do. I had a wonderful time looking through the survey. So many people, more than 100 people filled out the mini workshop survey. And I love that when that happens, people sharing the kinds of things that they've experienced: self-doubt, punishing behaviors, procrastination, fear of spending money, eating, dissociation, so many different troubles and problems. So I'm glad you made your way here. At the very end, really after a big, nice chunk of wonderful curriculum, I am going to share, if you decide to go on a self-inquiry journey with me, I'll share a little bit about the year of inquiry, and I'll just also share about some other different kinds of things people can get into that always ask about, how do I do more of the work, not just with me, but how do I do that in my life? I'll share that later, and you can ask questions. And I've created a special gift coupon to join Year of Inquiry for anybody who decides to do that. You don't have to do it immediately, but you can have the code and the coupon and know that it's there available for you. And I'll talk more about that later. So is this you? It certainly was me, trying a bazillion things to find some kind of relief or peace around whatever's going on here when it comes to this sometimes incredibly difficult, sometimes life-threatening, right, self-sabotage behavior. And we try everything. It's like hunting and hunting and hunting. Now, do I still get interested in books and explorations and learning about other people's philosophies or courses that they took? Oh, yes. But it feels like miraculously, I could also never read another book and I'd probably be fine. I just get interested in it. I like the sort of exploration of that in life and the psyche and the spirituality and all of it. But that is amazing because it used to feel like a desperate hunt. So you are in the right place, as I said, if you have suffered from one or more of the following. Initially, I had 4 areas or realms of self-sabotage that I like to think of as certain different kinds of flavors or energies, if you will. But really, I added 5 because so many people in the survey were talking about self-doubt, self-criticism, and just attacking themselves internally, and that they consider that a process of their own self-sabotage, all that kind of insecurity. And I think that was really important to add. But, this can be suffering from procrastination, as we said, but also like that overwhelm of any specific kind of emotional experience. Fixation, like not being able to let go of something like a dog with a bone, or where you can't put down like a project or something that you're working on and you just feel so gripped by it. I've been there. Addiction and compulsion, like dependency experience, but this including relationships in this one. But really, we know what those come out looking like when it's you have like food, you're eating food or smoking cigarettes or drinking alcohol or taking drugs. And so all of that can be included. Follow along in whatever way that you think is most up for you. And it's okay if you've got a little bit of all of them. I probably have also experienced absolutely all of these things. So when we often need to change, I would look at this as just such a common experience. I see this over and over again with people and myself. There's the first thought, well, let's find the key. Let's figure out where the answer is. I mean, it's in movies all the time. If something needs to happen, well, let's go figure out how to make that happen. Let me get the answer. Let me get the secret ingredient or the key, right? Like the hobbits finding that the ring. Also, there is a sense when we have some deep and difficult problem, like with self-sabotage, that I am definitely in this alone. Like no one can do it for me. No one can figure out my food and eating issues for me or my relationship codependency for me. I have to figure it out myself, but there can be like a real stress in the loneliness involved in that. And then thirdly, there's this approach to change that says, well, I just need to turn away from what doesn't work. I need to, and which sounds very logical. It sounds like a good idea too, but I need to get away from that pain, those difficult thoughts, those bad feelings. I need to hide them and bury them and sedate them and suppress them and just push them and out of here, lock them in a closet and throw away the key. That's the only thing is it sometimes begins to require an enormous amount of energy. I've been here, like I would feel very contained. People wouldn't be able to tell on the outside. And I thought that was a good thing, what I was feeling on the inside. But I would be sort of like nervous and shocked and worried and had a lot going on the inside that I wasn't displaying externally. So there was a big difference between outer and inner experience. And I would say all 3 of these approaches actually wind up causing some drama and difficulty and also lack of success around the change. So just for today, even just this moment, I'm inviting everyone to stop, like hunting and moving, looking, willing. Just listen today like you're meditating, like you're taking something in, you just want to feel and be. You might, if you feel like taking notes, great, but if you don't want to take a single note, that's okay too. Just let yourself experience some peace, and I'll be talking about that more. Also, that you're not in this alone. It's impossible. There's way too many people that experience this, for one thing, self-sabotage in all the different various forms. But I am connected and supported. All of us are, in a very great, interdependent, mysterious reality. are all like breathing the air in. That is a part of just existence here. And everything that's been in the air is going into this organism. And all that I'm ever thinking is not really invented by me either. It's stories passed on from history in the past and my experience. So I'm just not alone. I'm not alone. A life force is here, even supporting me, living through me. And then also that pain, instead of something that we want to suppress and get rid of or run away from, is a catalyst. Just to treat, let's say, the pain and all this pain that we've gone through and pain that we've experienced, let's just say it's something transformative. It's here like an alarm clock, and we're not going to break the alarm clock. We don't want to get rid of the alarm clock. And it can, believe me, it can be no longer necessary to have the alarm going off. That's where we want to get, isn't it? So lastly, you're in the right place. If you imagine that all of this self-sabotage behavior or surprising behavior and difficult feelings and difficult thoughts, whatever it is that's unwanted here, has something to do with how you're perceiving and interpreting life and yourself. Like, even though you think all those behaviors or feelings or thoughts that brought you here are horrible and hateful and disappointing, you're on to that. There's something about the way you're thinking and perceiving that is going on here that's producing these, that's making these, that's how these are winding up happening. Let's put it that way. You're not to blame. It's just something about the way the mind is working, the understanding that we have about mind. So I really love that science, like neuroscience and all the research that have been done and the places that we've gone with that, and as human culture, not me personally, as well as psychology, the study of emotional connection and health and well-being, and spirituality and philosophy all seem to say and have research studies kind of showing that our minds and perceptions are creating our experience. Our minds have something deeply to do with however it is we're responding to the world. So the mind is just like incredibly important and powerful. Sam Harris, the author of Waking Up, said almost all our suffering is the product of our thoughts. We spend nearly every moment of our lives lost in thought and hostage to the character of those thoughts. We know what self-sabotage thoughts look like. They look kind of like panic to me. And he goes on to say, you can break this spell, because it definitely feels like a spell, but it takes training, just like it takes training to defend yourself against a physical assault. Now, just in case your mind might be like mine and go like, oh, but this training, that's so much, that's so hard. We're going to look at that a little bit. So it doesn't mean that it has to be like a Kung Fu expert or a black belt or something like that. I just think it's the use of those words, training. So, but still, it takes practice. Let's put it that way. Like learning to ride a bike, or it may be even as simple as learning how to walk. There's something that needs to happen in the development of ourselves or in the, life experience that is necessary to break the spell, it seems like. And I love that he mentions that. And notice that I put this quote on the front of a buried treasure, because I think of this self-sabotage, holding that in mind, that we're not going to suppress the pain and feel so alone or try so hard to get rid of this just for today, find the answer, that there is a treasure buried in it. If we knew that there was a buried treasure underneath the floorboards of our house, like deep down in the foundation, we would dig up the floor, because we know that a treasure means like something great, of high value, something amazing. And so I love that approach to understanding our own thoughts and self-sabotage. Is like, what if it's like a treasure and I want to be willing to dig it up? So David McCraney, author of How Minds Change, said, everything that's ever happened to you has happened inside your skull. Speaking of this idea that how powerful mind is, Even the sensation of having an arm is projected by the brain. It feels and looks like your arm is out there in space, but even that can be a misconception. Your arm is actually in your head. Each brain creates its own version of truth, broadly similar, but infinitely different and flawed in its details. And I say flawed in its details in red for good reason, because that's what most of us are doing. We're not seeing the whole entire picture. There's some flaws. So a little bit about me, in case you've never ever heard of me before and you made your way here, you saw maybe the registration for this happening, is I had a lot of flaws in my perception and my thinking. I suppose most people probably do when they're, 14 or in their 20s, maybe any time in life. How can we see everything? But this picture that you see here on the screen on the left is me and my 4 sisters, and I'm on the farthest left. I'm the oldest, and we were lining up in age group, oldest to youngest. My youngest is 5.5 years younger than me, and I'm 14. And I was really upset at this time because my sister who's right next to me, had just grown an inch taller than me that year. I was so upset about this. I still remember. I was very anxious. I was on my first diet with my mother. I was quite socially awkward, incredibly shy. Oh my goodness. And super, super introverted. Still take the test. I took a test a couple of years ago when my oldest was in high school, probably 10 years ago, and came out the same, extreme introvert from their psychology class. And this picture on the right, it still looks like I'm 14, but I'm actually like 22, and I've dropped out of college, and I have so much self-doubt, and I have my Princess Diana haircut, and I just feel like, just act nice, I don't know, but kind of full of anxiety and having a full-blown eating disorder. And moving on from there into probably another decade of immense struggle with like addictive process around food and eating, just binge eating. What I really started to develop when I was 14 and up until for probably 20 years was what Eckhart Tolle says here at the top, which is, perhaps if I think about myself long enough, I will solve this problem of me. With enough time or years and sleepless nights, perhaps I can find the answer. Which I know I'm kind of laughing a little bit about it, but I know that feels immensely stressful. So, but it makes sense that we would all think that way. It seems like me is a problem. And I love that he goes on to say, but can I become aware of a deeper dimension, the awareness of me without the addition of thought? That's the great question, which I love that question. What is present, whether thoughts are happening or not? Like something is steady here, whether we're in our self-sabotage behavior, thought, feeling process, or we are not. We're still surviving, and we're living, and life is being lived through us, and thoughts are coming through us. And this question was first really raised to me deeply, and this started making a real shift in my experience, a huge and deep and actually pretty dramatic shift in my experience. And that is, what is happening whether thoughts are here or not? My encounter with Byron Katie. And maybe many of you probably know, and maybe not, that's my primary modality of working with people, is to use the Work of Byron Katie. Tons of training in the Work of Byron Katie in the certification program. And I started working with that, even though I was also a certified counselor and had a graduate degree in mental health and applied behavioral science. I started doing just the work because it would kind of cut through and out of lots of stories around things. And also because that's what worked for me. And I'll tell you about that, with how it worked for me. But I really like the idea of allowing our thoughts to be transformed. So when I went to the first program that I ever signed up for with Byron Katie. It was yet another program. Do I really want to take this program? Yes, I'm going to take this program. I applied for a scholarship to go because it was very expensive to me at the time. And I was a young mother. And so, you know, time had passed from that school dropout time, but I still felt fairly anxious. Wasn't quite so extreme in my behavior with binge eating, but still absolutely full of anxiety some of the time. And that wasn't so good in mothering either. So I would notice that as I landed at that first school for the work, which is 9 days long, how often I basically had the perspective that things need to change in my environment. Things need to change out there in the world. This absolutely should not be happening. It was so frequent, I didn't even realize it. And so I kind of recognized that when I went to the school. It was very funny because first day of the school, I remember we got a notebook and these questions are written in it. In fact, I got this card and it's still in my wallet to this day. I love this little yellow card. So we got the 4 questions, but I was ruffling around in the materials going like, now, what are those 4 questions again? Gosh, you know, so here I come all this distance and I didn't even really know what this was about, which is okay. I mean, I think that's kind of wonderful. You just get this gut feel. I'm going in that direction. I like what Byron Katie has said. I had read her book, Loving What Is, and was really, really, really curious, really sparked. Wow, it's possible to question what I'm thinking. That's amazing. Oh, about everything? Yes. So I love knowing how many people are familiar with the work who've been here. I know some of you are, and some of you have maybe heard of it, but you might have never done it before. But I really wanted to show you. These are the simple 4 questions. And when it comes to self-sabotage, there we were sitting in the school for the work, and you really get to spend so many day after day after days just doing the work on the things that you believe need to change and what shouldn't have happened or shouldn't be happening. And there is a lot. There is a lot, right? At least there was in my mind. I had an improvement for just about everything. So I noticed so deeply, and I wasn't necessarily zeroing in on food and eating, but an amazing thing happened for me. And first, I want to say something that Byron Katie suggests in Loving What Is. This is exactly the way it felt like for me with what went on, with adding inquiry or understanding that I could inquire into my thoughts. So Katie said, before I found inquiry, I had no way to stop this kind of stressful thinking. Small stories bred bigger ones. Bigger stories bred major theories about life, how terrible it was, how the world was a dangerous place. I ended up feeling too frightened and depressed to leave my bedroom. How much of your world is made up of unexamined stories? You'll never know until you inquire. I was shocked by the amount of unexamined stories. It just overwhelmed by the amount of unexamined stories. But here's the thing. I was learning a lot and seeing a lot and just sitting in inquiry. I mean, you know, partner working and writing thoughts down and asking, is it true? Asking those 4 questions. How do you react when you believe this? Who would I be without this story? And kind of getting to just catch on and get it. Because at the beginning, it was like, is it true? What do you mean, is it true? Of course it's true. It happened. I saw it. What are you talking about? So it was a little bit like that. And then I started going, oh, I see. We're just wondering. But about the 7th day into this 9-day school program, we had the opportunity to have like 5 hours off campus. Basically, you must be in total silence. Just enjoy yourselves, but don't speak. Don't interact with other people. Have conversations. Obviously, you're not speaking. We're going to go out into, the world, out into the environment. And the place that the school happened to take place and where we were was near Southern California in the Santa Monica Pier, an amazing part of the world, paradise, this beach. And I'm up there on this cliff, you know, maybe 2 hours in, just thinking, when is this going to be over? And I hadn't eaten all day long, and I felt physically hungry. I felt emotionally hungry. I felt my psychic hunger just, you know, completely overwhelming me, spiritually hungry, I would say. I felt unsafe. I just like, you know, get to the meeting point. Like, what time, please pass quickly. I'm so tired of this. And I just felt this misery, even though I was in this incredibly gorgeous place. I felt rather alone, speaking of that alone feeling, and uncared for. And I noticed I did not like silence. I didn't like this silence. I thought I was so introverted, and I just loved it when things settled down and got quiet. But in this situation, I didn't have a book. I didn't have something exciting to think about, or maybe too exciting to think about. I don't know. I just was, I felt miserable I hated being hungry. My thoughts about hunger were like, I can't stand it. I hate it, which was very interesting with all the binge eating I had done, which was like a lot of reactivity to starving myself as well. So there I am. I'm just up on this cliff, and I'm looking down, and this is almost the view that I had. There's a parking lot down below, and there's the pier. And out of the corner of my eye, you know, I got to the meeting point really early because I just was like, oh God, just get this over. I'm going to lay down on the grass at this meeting point where we're all going to meet, and just get me back to the hotel, whatever we're doing next. And I happened to look over my shoulder and glance down towards this parking lot and the pier, and I saw a truck with people unloading who had like chef's outfits on, and they're putting out tables, and they're putting out white tablecloths, and a huge meal is being assembled. And I realize I think there's Katie, or there's Katie's staff. And I realize, oh my God, this might be for us right here. Absolute shock. And I also thought, oh, don't even think about that, because we don't know if that's for me. I don't know if that's for me. That might not be I might not be for us. And as everyone gathered and remained in silence, and then we were, you know, ushered and kind of filed down the hill, down into this area, that's what it was. It was like an absolute feast after, you know, 5 torturous hours, however long I was there, in silence. This was what was offered. And for some reason, me, the very contained person who would never let other people see me be emotional, broke down and started sobbing. And little did I know, you know, I felt, I guess, just like this depth of awareness of how much I had argued with hunger and not enoughness, and grinning and bearing with it, and waiting for things to be over, just getting through life. When will this be over? My whole life. And I, you know, from that point forward, what's happened, I didn't know that was happening at the moment. It was so massive. I never obsessed about food again. I was a person who no longer had any kind of eating issues. I still kind of can't believe it. I knew what to do with anxiety and tension and fear. I just knew to recognize, I'm just thinking. There's thinking is happening here. And I can ask, oh, is it true? If something's alarming for me. That was amazing to me. I could see I was living in total misery and hell, just thinking, oh God, like that, with the whole in Santa Monica, California. And it was actually like a sort of the heaven, you know, a heavenly place. And I wasn't even seeing that. And I just, to notice that is how I had been and how I had held it, was amazing to me. So something shifted. So Adyashanti, one of my favorite meditation teachers, I've loved going on retreats with him, says, there needs to be some transformative energy that can flash into consciousness. It needs to be an energy that is powerful enough to awaken consciousness out of its trance. Inquiry. is an active engagement with our own experience that can cultivate this. And I think that's what happened. There was just, who knows, really, but I had been sitting there wondering if my thoughts were actually true. I had always kind of wondered that, but I had gotten a sense of what it was like to not have to believe my stressful thoughts, like in the previous days up to that point. But I love that, he shares like so many people all the way back to, Lao Tzu and Buddhism and Christian mysticism and very ancient philosophy, asking, is it true? Wondering if what we're thinking is accurate is one of the greatest ways to see, to understand life and understand ourselves. Asking, who am I? So I could see that there had been a lot of laying of the ground work for seeds to sprout. And I really got that mind changes through inquiry, because I just wasn't the same from that point forward. There was a process of wondering that came alive in a more exciting, peaceful, kind of loving way. I did not have to believe everything traveling through my mind. I didn't have to make it go away, but I didn't have to believe everything that I was thinking. And so I've kind of had fun in the last many years since that time. I think it's been 18 years since that time, I can add, but like sort of reverse engineering when change happens and it's actually joyful, instead of when change happens out of, force, or like, is it even really happening? So what's going on here? At first, I didn't work with people that had like sort of self-sabotage or eating issues. I just did the work with people. And then I began to work with people more and more who actually had compulsive experience that they wanted to, address. So I want to share these 3 secrets about self-sabotage and change and how to work with them. And the first is how to be with something frightening and unpleasant and uncomfortable without going off the rails. The second is, isn't that something? The second is how to accept ourselves and even trust ourselves, like trust what is, without being overwhelmed by self-doubt. And the third is how to let go of rules and plans and not need to be in control, but without giving up in resignation. Like, since I can't do anything, I'm just going to lay down and do nothing about it at all, which is also painful. So I'm going to go with them in reverse order, starting with number 3. So the way I would say this secret, they're not really secrets, but it's just something that I've seen over time from so many people, that how powerful it is to look at it in these different ways, is that first, holding that belief, like we were saying at the beginning, how we approach change, that it takes effort, control, and willpower, and making my mind different. That is something to question. When we're thinking that, we have thoughts like, I need to map out my days. I have to practice being, correct and good. I have to do the right thing. I have to figure it out. And of course, it's counterpart. And who has the time to do that? But I need to do it even if it's boring, and I have to be vigilant. I have to be driving on this. How amazing to consider questioning that thought. So the thought, it kind of looks like this, doesn't it? Like, oh God, I have to do something. I mean, the procrastinator knows this, that procrastination kind of experience. Amazing, because we're constantly thinking we do need to do something when we're procrastinating. Here I am not doing the thing, but I need to do something, have a plan, and control myself or my circumstances. Is that true? Amazing to question. So it's just like believing that fixing is required, and it's not okay that this is happening. And I love looking at it like this with this dictator, such a great picture. Here's the general of the army. I will be disciplined. I will follow the rules. I'm left to my own devices. I'm totally out of control. I'm awful. I need to be managed. And then I also feel horrible and guilty and angry when I don't follow the rules and regulations. So, very interesting thing that I learned along the way. Often our self-sabotage comes in and we get all very hyper-focused on controlling it There it is. There's my eating issue. There's my pornography issue. There's my drinking thing that I do. There's my codependent obsessing about somebody, like, and worrying about them all the time. And there's my overspending of money. There's my procrastination. Well, intense focus on that, like almost the spotlight is held and beaming down on that thing. That's the thing that's on stage. And everything that we try to figure out about how to manage and control that. Well, there was this thing called a red herring. And I remember thinking, red herring, interesting term. Where does that come from? Oh, way back in Europe, 1600s in England, when there's fox hunts. They actually wanted to make an effective way to prolong the fox hunt, because there's all these hounds chasing down the fox, and they've gotten all ready and they've gotten up early in the morning, and we want to make this like longer, not so like it's over, fox is found. So they would mask the fox's scent and confuse the hounds who were chasing the fox by using a red herring. It was like a smoked fish, and like, drag that across the pathway so that the hounds would go after that. And it would work. They would veer away from the fox. They would lose the scent of the fox, the thing that they really wanted, and start chasing after the thing that had nothing to do with what they really wanted. Which is just like what it's like when we're going, okay, I'm going to get on this certain diet plan. This is what I'm going to do. Or I'm going to get a timer, and I'm going to do my routine, and I'm going to figure this thing out, and I'm going to go down the list. It's sort of like a lot of management, in other words. I'm going to suppress this emotion, make sure I never show it. It's all sort of management, but it's actually, I'm onto something that is false, that doesn't really matter. So the term began to be used more precisely to mean a false clue or a false scent. In other words, I'm really focusing on this thing that seems to matter the most. It looks obvious, but like for me, it wasn't so much the binge eating that really, really mattered. It was the reasons I was doing it in the first place. That's what really mattered. And that was getting very, very buried. My own fear and anxiety, and my own, fear and anxiety, and how I was suppressing things. We'll say more about that in a minute. So the turnaround, or the opposite of that original stressful belief, which is one of the things that Byron Katie would describe as what you do when you're looking at different thoughts, different ways to look at your beliefs that have been running, is to turn them around and just say them in the opposite way that they're originally said. So actually, instead of fixing this is required, not fixing this is required. Just stop. It's okay that this is happening. In fact, it's an invitation to something. Remember that crack that's in everything? It's pointing to something that needs to let light in. So what if I can drop all my control and plans and efforts and actually rest and relax? I know that's a hard thing to imagine when we have felt so upset. So I totally get that. So just a touch, just a drop. The way we'd see that secret number 3 is that instead of, the thought I need no control, it's just imagining change, not imagining, just trusting. Noticing that change is easy and natural and relaxing. And it really is. Like when you learn to walk, you don't even remember how you did it. You just did it. I really like thinking of this. I think I got a little picture of it later. The show Mary Poppins. I went when I was 5 years old. It was the first movie I ever saw in my life. And Mary Poppins, that story was just incredible to me. And I wanted to see it over and over again, of course, because like you do when you're 5 years old. But you remember how Mary Poppins, she comes to the family when they are in deep and dire need. And she leaves when they no longer need her. And I like thinking of our self-sabotage behavior. What if you imagine that it's going to leave when you no longer need it? And just trust that you have needed it to this point. So meanwhile, this secret number 3, just trusting and seeing that change is really easy and natural. And it's going to take whatever the amount of time is perfect. And we're questioning the belief that I need to control or plan or fix it, all those fix-its. So turned around, I must let go and relax, and nothing is actually required. Relaxing is maybe the most thing that's required. I like thinking of it as an act of love instead of all this problem solving that we've been trying to do. Just imagine you were, that what we do when we inquire, when we're questioning our thinking, is really something of the heart, that we're thinking less about it. I like that Martin Luther King said, "I've decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear." And that includes our self-hate and our, problems that we've been in. So secret number 2, I am okay already. I'm actually okay. I know it seems like we're not when we've got all this stuff that we've been doing and experiencing. But notice when we have all that stuff that looks so off balance happening, all that off balance eating and behavior and thinking and feeling, all those unwanted things. We sort of arrive at the conclusion, I sure did, that there's something wrong with me. And by the way, I'm not safe. I'm not even safe in my own skin. I'm not safe with myself. It's kind of like, yeah, I can't even trust myself. I'm not safe with me. We have all these reasons for why we need to have that control in the secret number 1, letting go of control. Like I'm a monster and I'm just stuck like this forever. And I'm just too sensitive and greedy and feelings are too big. I have too much trauma in my history and I've done it wrong too often. So it's really weird to think of it this way. Another weird thing that's like a turn, like what? Kind of turning it clunky on its, like completely turning it around is weird. I have a little story for this one. So in the time after I went to that school for the work where I felt like a really, really changed person, I also felt like I was sort of digesting and incorporating and assimilating everything that had happened for quite a while, probably like a 9-month period. I felt a little wonky inside, like, wow, things are kind of just, crunching down into a new spot, like almost I'm landing in a different place. Well, during that time, I was separated from my first husband, the father of my children. And, that was a whole thing in itself that required a lot of work because I was really panicked and upset. But it felt different. It also felt like I had some sense of trust about, remember what we've just become aware of, that I could be more supported than I'm realizing in this life. I could be more supported. So I would come to that over and over again daily. And I was actually on a date. So I agreed to go out with somebody and we went to this restaurant. So I found this on the internet and I had never heard of it before, but people that live in La Jolla or Southern California area probably have heard of it because it's famous, because it's on the beach. It would never be allowed to be built today. It's called the Marine Room. And the high tide comes in and actually splashes on the windows. It's amazing. So it's very, very fancy, very elegant. And we had gone for this, I'm kind of looking around with giant wide eyes, like what an amazing place to be. And had this lovely meal and I think a pretty good conversation. And at the end of this meal, right at the end, my date gets a phone call. And we all just had cell phones like for 1 year at that point or something like that. I remember I just had a cell phone. That was the first year I ever had a cell phone. So he gets a phone call and he excuses himself and leaves the restaurant, goes outside. 5 minutes go by, 10 minutes go by, 15 minutes go by. The waiter has placed the bill on our table. And I decide, okay, this is kind of weird. I don't really know what to do. So I'm going to get up and I start to walk towards the coat check area and the entrance to the restaurant. And the waiter says, excuse me, is there a problem? And I realize that he thinks we're leaving without paying, an over $200 dinner bill. And I just, oh my goodness, right. Okay. And I go back to the table and I sit down at the table because I don't have a way to pay for this. And I'm looking across, this is almost my exact view, this photo that I found on the web. Right off behind the banister is a tabletop for 8 people. And there are people sitting around there. And I feel like I've been staring at different people in the restaurant because this is a long time, 20 minutes to go by. And I look over at that table and, I see that there are, it looks like it's for 8 people. and there's one chair that is empty. And what I attribute as being completely different for living in inquiry and kind of having a way more open mind than I once had before was, it just occurs to me, I could go ask if I could join those people and sit at their table while I'm waiting. And I did it, even though part of me is like, oh my God, don't do that. Just like the old days, that voice would be in there. But I walked over and I sat down, and it turned out these people are the owners. They're related to the original founders of this restaurant, and they're planning a wedding. And they introduced me to the members of the family that are there. And they're like, oh, I saw you over there sitting by yourself. I'm like, what's happening? And they, I said, well, I'm on a date, kind of a first time. And the person that I'm on a date with is a real estate agent. And then they talked about real estate for a while and owning this place. And all the years, it was just the most wonderful conversation. And it was 40 minutes later. I mean, I had the best time ever. 40 minutes later, before my date came back in the restaurant, and then found me. And I had an absolutely fantastic time. And I can guarantee you that the way I would have been prior to that is I would have been sort of quietly putting up with and still having that thought, when will this be over with? When is he going to come back? I would have felt kind of abandoned, but like, I can handle it. That's okay. But actually not so happy. So I love that Katie says this: reality is you're good and there's nothing you can do about it. And every thought opposing that feels like stress. I would have never felt like maybe they would like me to come sit next to them at the table before I started questioning my thinking. The work enables you to go inside and experience the peace that already exists within you. That peace is unchanging, immovable, and ever present. I love that Katie says this: those of you who like to get high, try this. So this secret number 2 is really holding the belief or the turnaround, or just feeling the truth of, there's something right with me. There's something right. Everything's okay. I'm safe. There's not something wrong with me. I'm not in danger. It's okay. So amazing that questioning your thoughts, the work, is the direct way to orchestrate your own happiness. I don't know. I didn't find really another way to do it. It's like, I'm either have my thoughts or I question them. I don't really have an option in between in there. So, I was either believing or questioning. Yeah, no other door number 3 that says, well, just don't think, just don't have the pain, just turn away from, it's like the suppressing of the pain kind of approach. I really like this. This might help some of you. Just a little tiny shift that really helped along the way, that you can say, some part of me is upset right now. Some part of me is abandoned right now. Some part of me is angry. Some part of me is compulsive. Some part of me is refusing to do what I want to do right now, procrastinating. Some part of me is wanting, just full of grabbing right now, but it's just some part of me. It's not all of me. I mean, if we have just a little tiny space between our thinking and believing, then you realize that the thoughts aren't really as important, anywhere near as important as we've been thinking they are. Which brings me to secret number 1. And that is allowing and welcoming everything. Quite an invitation. But I think of kind of like with Katie suggesting that we are already at peace. We already have peace available to us right here all the time, ever present. There is something that welcomes everything already within us. It's our nature. Like we go, okay, it's the way it is. Just the mind isn't so interested in welcome everything, but that's okay. But instead of fighting with our self-sabotage and our thoughts and our feelings, or any part of reality, really, could we allow all the feelings and thoughts to be present? And just drop the goals, drop the arguing, let it be the way it is. And we love the Beatles song, Let It Be. And everyone who's ever sang it, that's why it's so peaceful and beautiful. Just let it be. It will change. It's never going to just stay the way it is. But what if we just left ourselves alone in a good way, instead of bullying ourselves around our self-sabotage? So I really love this. Sabot. Where does the word sabotage come from? Sabots are wooden shoes that are clogs that workers and peasants in Europe tended to wear, I think in the 1800s or something. And they were starting to have protests and interest in unions and talking about their conditions, their working conditions and their hours. And so they would stomp their feet, bam, 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 bam. Noisemakers. And the word came alive in French, sabotage, noisemakers, calling attention to the squeaky wheel that's yelling and stomping and making something really obvious. There's a problem here. There's a problem here. What if our sabotage behavior was saying that to us? There's a problem. And it might be like, oh yes, I know it's obvious that there's a problem. But what if it's not the problem we think it is? Like my decision or my idea, oh, it must be because I'm so greedy and there's something wrong with me, right? What if it's something else? Isn't just there's some kind of thing that is wanting balance here that isn't getting balance. What a nice way to look at it. I mean, powerful way. So Father Richard Rohr, I love him. And he says, the fears that assault us are mostly simple anxieties about social skills, about intimacy, about likableness, or about performance. We need not give emotional food or charge to these fears or become attached to them. We don't even have to shame ourselves for having these fears. But simply ask your fears. What are you trying to teach me? Ask your sabotage. What are you trying to teach me? And I'll say more about that in a moment, because I really see this link between what mine was trying to show me or invite me to. And he says this, some say that FEAR, fear, is merely an acronym for false evidence appearing real. I love the learning I've gotten from internal family systems work. This, what if your saboteur? What if the thing that comes in, the way you react to life, whatever it is that you do, dissociation, not sleeping, overspending, looking at your phone, gaming, eating, what if that has a purpose? What if it's like a firefighter? What if it's trying to come in for the rescue? So when I was first going to therapy, one of the many therapists that I went to trying to work on this issue, and many of them had some very, very good, useful, just dynamics that I learned from them. So I'd learn a little bit along the way and definitely would be helpful. And I had a therapist who encouraged a lot of reflection about how I felt, feelings, and to journal about it. And I went into my first really full-time job. After eventually I did graduate from college, not the same one that I had dropped out from initially, but I went and moved to another town, Denver, and I had a job there. And my boss at 9 o'clock in the morning when I came in said, Grace, I need to speak with you. Went into his office and I can't even remember what the thing was, but he was basically pointing out a pretty important mistake that I had made. And I felt embarrassed and upset. And then I actually was ruminating it, of course, on the day and just felt like, mortified. And I also remember feeling like suddenly it wasn't fair, like somebody else had been responsible. I just remember something like that. There was a co-worker or a colleague, somebody else involved in this thing who I imagined, like because of the way this made me get in more trouble. So I felt terrible. It was like this tornado within. And I was sort of, in my typical way at the time, containing it. I would have never even imagined maybe I could talk to him about how hurt or upset I am. I just felt like as small as the size of a little tiny pea. And he and everybody else are so much greater. And of course, when you feel that small and horrible and terrible, and there's a tornado going on inside, I mean, what did I immediately begin to think of probably an hour into the morning. What am I going to eat later? I am going to get something to eat. I am going to go on the biggest binge that anyone has ever gone on in the entire history of the universe. I'm going to get in my car, which I did at the end of that day, and I'm going to start driving. I'm going to all the fast food places and all the things that I'm not allowed to eat and all that. And I'm just, I'm just going on a binge. And I could feel the energy building towards that binge, like aggressive eating. And I did not realize, but what was wonderful until I went to see my therapist, and she was asking me to describe, can you remember, what was happening before? What was going on with you that day? And I suddenly remembered, oh, I felt very, very criticized by my boss. I felt like I'd make a mistake. I felt ashamed and I felt angry and upset. And I suddenly saw that my saboteur, the firefighter, was coming in to dampen my rage and my shame. So I love that Katie says, how do you react when you think that you shouldn't think certain thoughts? And you do, like, I shouldn't be the way I am. Ashamed, depressed. Now turn it around. You should think them. Doesn't that feel a bit lighter, a bit more honest? Mind wants its freedom, not a straitjacket. I mean, that is a huge relief. So in this secret number one, I like to think of it as just allowing and welcoming all those difficult thoughts and feelings to be present. Because in my book, shame and anger were definitely alive and well, but they were not allowed to be shown. And all the turmoil was not allowed to be talked about. And I couldn't, actually communicate and connect with other people if I was in that mode. And I would just turn to eating. And I like to say this turnaround. I've heard this phrase before, but just drop the knife. So instead of being the attacker and the criticizer and the judger and kind of like the hater, just drop the knife. Allowing and welcoming everything to be here. Amazing to do this drive. It's so accepting of the self, and it's like an acceptance of life itself and people and what we've experienced that seems to cause our upset. So isn't that where we all want to be? And isn't that maybe the truth of who we are? Somebody who doesn't need to have a knife in their hand attacking. So Eckhart Tolle, I love this one, said, thinking is addictive. It's really thinking. Maybe all this trouble isn't really so much the actual self-sabotage, although I know it's so hard, but that it's thinking and believing our thoughts. Most humans are addicts. The greatest addiction is the addiction to thinking. Thinking that creates anxiety, grievances, regret, guilt, enemies. The mind is powerful, but you must access the essence of who you are. People, events, memories come into the field of consciousness, and most humans are in a constant state of not wanting what is. And we could say we definitely don't want what is when it comes to this sabotage that we've been experiencing, right? But he offers, say yes internally to whatever arises in this moment. Your choice is not to understand more or to bring analysis to the process, or, like I've added, control, plans, rules, but to practice not thinking. Accept this moment as it is. Just feel your body. Overactivity of the mind is usually an attempt to get away from the present moment. And I love that we can't get away from the present moment. We just can't. So allowing and welcoming is our natural, the most real state to be in. So just for a moment, do an exercise. Everybody consider, ask that judge and that critic, often the critic and judge, if you've ever done the work of Byron Katie, often the one who fills out a judge your neighbor worksheet on self-sabotage is just intensely hateful and critical. It will say things like, I'm upset with Grace because she just can't stop thinking about eating, and she can't stop actually eating, and she can't stop, she needs to lose weight, and just rip you to shreds. So we're going to ask that one. Thank you for your service. I'm glad you've been there. I'm glad you're coming in to kind of help control or manage the situation. I don't need to get rid of you. But if you could step aside a moment, what feeling is underneath that one? If that one just stands down a moment, what feeling am I trying not to feel that the saboteur needs to come in? What would be disturbing if you did not have this activity or feeling or way of being available to you? What would be disturbing if you didn't have it? I mean, just to see. Fantastic question. You don't have to know the answer right now. I realized that I thought I would just be incredibly explosive, angry all the time, furious at people, that I'd separate and cut off and cause more havoc. I was very scared of what would happen if I didn't have this, my eating accessible and available to me. But even just to consider that it's had a purpose. You don't even have to know what it is. That might take a little more, like just analyzing, which we don't even really need to analyze. Remember, we're just relaxing today. But it is a great question. What are you trying not to feel? So remember, I said Mary Poppins. This is the movie I saw, the one with Julie Andrews, of course. That your behavior will change. Your thinking will shift when it's no longer needed. And the only way I could ever see thinking or the behavior to actually no longer be needed was when I questioned my thoughts, when I no longer had my beliefs deeply embedded in my whole system. And the only way I could do that was to sit and actually question my thoughts, like ask if it was true and just ponder it and let it take the time it was taking. So Pema Chodron, another favorite, she said, when we touch the center of sorrow, when we sit with discomfort without trying to fix it, when we stay present to the pain of disapproval or betrayal and let it soften us, these are times that we connect with bodhicitta. That's like source, love, loving kindness. So really, in summary, I like to say that, with what we can see with self-inquiry is, I am not my thinking. It's just thought. The thoughts actually don't mean anything serious by themselves. They're just like energy. If you looked in a basket full of thoughts, you'd see nothing. And there's a link between emotions and thoughts of sabotage. Like we're squelching the feelings or doing something instead of relaxing. Like here I am, not getting something done, but I'm kind of doing like a sitting feeling when I'm procrastinating, or here I am doing by drinking, or here I am doing by smoking a cigarette. Here I am doing by thinking obsessively about my kid. Also, there's always a stressful thought running when off-balance behavior is present. That's amazing to know. It can't just pop in out of nowhere. There's some kind of off-balance. There's some kind of stressful thought, alive there that maybe has occurred to me, but it's very unconscious. So hidden fears and beliefs or feelings that I don't want can be brought into the light with self-inquiry. Just let things be cracked open and the light to get in. So I just love that question. What am I thinking and believing? All it takes is answering 4 questions and turning your thoughts around. And I know that's sometimes all it takes. There's something to it. It might sound simple, but it might not be so easy. But I love doing this work. That's why I love doing it, is because it really seems like with doing the work, the results, the end results, like what we have and how we show up, how I've shown up, is entirely different. So some people have mentioned like the order of creation, just that all that means is I have a thought and then I feel my thought. And then I act on that feeling and thought, and the results are what I have. And that all happens so quickly, faster than a speeding bullet. Very, very, very fast. Think, feel, act, have. Think, feel, think again, think, feel, act, it's just moving so quickly. And as you do the work, those results, what we've got is like this really off-balance behavior, but that starts to change. You just don't even worry about that. Go to the thinking and feeling, and just be with it differently. So I love Carl Jung's statement, in every disorder is a secret order. In every disorder is a secret order. Speaking of all these secrets. So questioning disordered thinking is the pathway into dissolving disordered behavior. I think I've felt myself, and then working with people all these years, it's been years that I've gotten to work with people in just this understanding of questioning thought, who you are, who you actually are, even if thought's running, who you are. It seems to free people to become like change agents and love in the world. It's not a problem solving situation, the work, it's heart healing. So with inquiry, we're just not so afraid of our thoughts. It's even not our job to solve problems. I know it's kind of funny, but just think of the relief, like that one, like the secret number one, just we're not even worried about solving a problem. In fact, I think of it as even a trap to solve problems. Like no one has a problem-free existence. We're just going to have things happen, life. But we can see exactly what we're thinking by accessing this unconditional loving kindness. And if we let the suffering be welcome and speak, like all things come in, every thoughts, feelings, everything that we're thinking, that it's okay and it's welcome and can speak, everyone's relieved. All parts of me are relieved. So you may be feeling a little bit like this right now. I love the Cookie Monster. Cookie Monster is my favorite, probably because I was a binge eater. But yeah, and he makes it so light and fun, right? I love Cookie Monster. I think you're not supposed to have cookies. Cookie Monster's like doesn't eat cookies anymore on Sesame Street. But in any case, I love Cookie Monster. So I would love to ask you this question, and that is, if you would like to hear more about the year of inquiry, if I could share information about year of inquiry with you, and then also a little bit about how to actually do the work, even for free, no charge, no programs. I know some of you will want to know that. So does that sound good? And you might even be like, I love this picture of Cookie Monster too, with little, his eyeballs kind of going cross, like, oh my God. But he's usually pretty happy. Yes. Yes, yes. Okay, several people saying yes. Awesome. Okay, so ways to do the work in your life. First of all, just get a partner. You've got a friend, you might have a family member. You can find facilitation guides at thework.com, Byron Katie's website, and One Belief at a Time worksheets that have the questions. You can get a partner and exchange facilitations. There's something about revealing what you're thinking to somebody else in an honest way that is like such a relief, just fantastic. You don't feel so ashamed. You can also sit down with the 4 questions and judge your neighbor worksheet and write your answers. Follow the steps. They're all, it's free to follow the steps. You can get the details of how to do it on thework.com, and just meditate on the concepts that you're believing and thinking. You can also come to a free Friday inquiry session with me, and we happen to be having one this week on Friday in 2 days. Usually it's the first Friday of the month, but I'm going to be traveling the first Friday of August. So we're having it this Friday instead. And if you're on my mailing list, then you'll get the link. You'll just get it automatically because it's open to everyone. It's super wonderful. And it's an hour of somebody volunteers, and we see where it goes with common beliefs that humans have, because that's who shows up, humans, to do the work. It's really wonderful. You can also get solo sessions with trained facilitators. I do solo sessions with people, and retreats and courses are my favorite groups, but there's facilitators out there, and you can get with somebody who's experienced. You get all the attention. You don't have to trade facilitation. Somebody's just facilitating you. I think of it as like tending to the soil. And I also like to say in all of this, no one has to do anything. I just think of it as letting yourself be worked. Let yourself be worked. This African proverb is very, very poignant. No one can do it for you, and you can't do it alone. So it's really true, that thing that at the very beginning, when you were saying, you feel all alone and you have to do it. I mean, in some ways that's country, like, if I'm thirsty, I'm the one that has to drink a glass of water, but I also can't do that alone, because, the water needed to be made and the glass needed to be made, and all these participants of the whole world and nature itself all adding together. There isn't really an individual solo unit here. So that is the very good news. And I love that we can't do it alone. I couldn't figure it out alone either. I'm glad I went to the school, and then I'm glad since then I just keep on doing the year of inquiry. So it was one of the most important things that ever happened in my life to do the work of Byron Katie. I mean, absolutely life-changing, if not the most important. And I know it's possible for all of us to know that we're free, way more often, if not all the time, 100% of the time. And joining with others in inquiry, despite being such a introvert that would prefer doing everything by myself, it's the practice that's the key way I found to live the work, like actually finding out over and over again that I'm not alone and that everybody's the same and we all have the same thoughts. It's just remarkable. I don't feel so isolated. It's like, I think of it as like isolation medicine. Oh, I have a picture for that. It's like, you take an aspirin to make your headache go away. You do the work together with people in a group to make isolation go away. I mean, it's just an amazing feeling. So I just found it remarkable. And people are so courageous to be revealing these things that look so terrible and awful. And it's wonderful. So year of inquiry, this is going to be, I think it's like the 12th time I am doing it. And it always starts in September. I was just raised where September is school starting time. That'll be in my blood forever, I think. And at least that's my story, and I'm not too stressed about it, so it's okay not to question it. But September through June, so it's 10 months of a community doing the work together. And the type of people that want to be there and turn up and show up every year are some people that want something to be in their life to be different. Want something like self-sabotage, a relationship, work, money, the way that I think about whatever it is in my world, my mother, I want it to be different than it is. And I just keep thinking that and feeling that. And so this is a fantastic place to be when you're noticing that so strongly. Also, for people who want a new way and a relaxed way to be with change, to like have it be sort of a Mary Poppins approach, where we're going to let change happen. And maybe Mary Poppins will turn up to need to leave at some point because, the saboteur or whatever it is that you've been doing, your stories that have been stressful are no longer necessary. Also, for people who think there's not enough time, it's really great when you have a group that's meeting and you've got stuff on the calendar and you just show up. Like you don't have to figure out the other times that you're doing the work every day in your life or do the work for breakfast necessarily. You just show up to be, together with all the people at the same allotted moment once, 1, 2, 3 times a week. You might be somebody who wants to do the year of inquiry if you absolutely know the work works, but you don't do it. So somebody was just telling me she's signing up for the year of inquiry. She did the work for 10 years. And then just drifted away from it, even though she thought it was fantastic. And I don't also want you to hear or think because somebody's doing the work for 10 years, that means they are unfixed for 10 years. It just means there's a great joy in questioning thought. I mean, as long as we're alive, I think there's going to be thinking happening. I keep finding, how fun to work with this and just keep sharing in the understanding of this process and the work. So she was doing it like that and she was enjoying it. And then something just sort of drifted away from it and then kind of like just reignited an interest in the work. And we're like, right, this is so fun to remember. I don't have to believe my thoughts. I can question, I can say, is it true? And then also, if you're looking for a community to share, like really share in this, I don't know, I just feel like a very deep way of sharing insights and growth and honesty with like really what we're thinking. So just everyone's shared in their delight in questioning their thoughts. So what it includes is monthly presentations. They're like little trainings. They're like a workshop like this, only it's only 1 hour. So we might have exercises and people share and we get together on Zoom, and they're experiential and they're on all these different amazing topics like shame, family of origin, money, body, definitely self-sabotage we'll have this year, finding turnarounds, living turnarounds. So I love all these workshops, and sometimes the people who are in the we're going to do relationships and sexuality this year too. sometimes people that are in year of inquiry can influence the workshops that we do. We might have one on parenting, we might not, just important family members. The times that the live sessions meet, so we've got these live sessions too, so that's monthly workshops, and then also live just inquiry sessions that'll be like the one we're having on Friday, only these are just the same small, the group that's the year of inquiry group, and we're meeting Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So some people come once, by the way, once a week, and some people come to all of them. So we've got monthly topic workshops, 3 open live inquiry sessions per week for ongoing practice the entire time, the entire 10 months we're together. And then we also have partnering work. So this is optional. People are traveling. Sometimes people don't want to partner. That's totally okay. But I think of it as a wonderful way to really get the work. And if you ever want to be a facilitator, this is a great way, learning how to facilitate others, because you have a partner and you're going to facilitate, but you're just going to learn by facilitating. And I help people in the process of supporting people, because things come up in partner work. Like, oh, that's where really fabulous things come. It's like, I don't know if the person liked the way I facilitated, and I don't know if they liked how I answered the question. So anything that ever is with relationship, like self-sabotage and codependency, that's going to appear in your partner work, and you're going to get to address it. And it's very, very sweet. It can turn out to be very kind and very loving, because people just are sharing together the process. They really get to know each other well. So love the partnering. So we've got monthly live topic workshops, 3 open inquiry sessions per week, and partner pairing every month. You can be in and out. You assign a partner every month. And then we also have Marco Polo sharing. If you've never heard of Marco Polo, it's a free video texting app for small groups. And it's not on anywhere else. And it's not a part of Facebook. And it's not searchable. It's only on your phone. And it is amazing. So I create a small group for the people that are in year of inquiry, and you can video text share anytime, night or day, and just say, hey, here's what I'm thinking. I know I want to question this out loud right now. Okay, is it true? I'm just really disturbed. Here's my situation. You get to share anything. We've had pictures of our houses, the inside of our houses, or the walks that we like to take every day. People like to share that. And it is so sweet. It's very, very connective. Okay, so monthly topic workshops. I have to make a new slide for myself to remember. The 3 open live inquiry sessions per week, partner pairing every single month, Marco Polo for sharing anytime. And I'm there every step of the way. So I like to say too, that people can message me on Marco Polo anytime they want. And then I get back to them, nope, like within 24 hours. So that is a huge advantage. I mean, people tell me that it's a big advantage. They can reach out. I really think of the whole thing as a huge shame breaker. The belief that we're unworthy of connection. So, we all know Brene Brown, so famous at this point for all her research and wonderfulness that she's offered the world around shame. But she's basically shared that when we believe we're flawed and unworthy of love and belonging, then we think we're unworthy of connection. And I think of connection that we do here in Year of Inquiry as an act of the heart, or even just gathering in one session of the work. So everything that's included is the monthly workshops, and the 3 optional, you can come to one or all of them, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, every single week. Facilitator Kelly, who's also been through all the certification training with Byron Katie, she does Wednesdays. She offers Wednesdays, very sweet. She was in the Year of Inquiry for several years. And then she just said, maybe I could lead a group. And I thought, oh, that's so sweet. Yes, you could. So she leads people in the group that meets on Wednesdays. And then we have partner pairing and Marco Polo sharing and an online forum, which looks like it's going to be in Mighty Communities. I'm not sure quite yet. We're almost about to decide that. We're going to change that what we've had in the past. But that's where there is a place that you can go where all the recordings are saved from every single call, and all the monthly topic workshops and written sharing. You can write your work and have it be commented on. You can ask for help. That's always in one single place in the community online. And then you have all the materials that you need for doing the work too, that will be downloadable, that you can access in the online forum, where it will be. And for this year, for the first time ever, I've never done this before, I'm adding an option to put in solo sessions with me monthly for those who signed up. I've been asked enough times for that over the years that I decided, okay, let's try it. Let's see if that works. I only have room for 10 at the absolute most of that, because I do have solo sessions that I work with people every day, Monday through Friday. But I really love this quote from Margaret Mead, where she says, "Never doubt that a group of committed, thoughtful citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." And if you think about this with changing the world of how you see things, your entire world through self-inquiry, I really think that it's through this kind of group connection and work that you can really change how you're experiencing life, because a lot of the pain and woundedness that we've had in our lives come from other people, experiences that we've had with other people. Not that they're to blame, it's just that dynamic has been really troubling for us. And so to get with people and feel so comfortable and safe, I just hear people saying it over and over again as the year progresses. It's really, really awesome. So when you go to the URL, workwithgrace.com is my website, /year of inquiry. When you go there, you'll land on a page that looks just like this, the year of inquiry page. And if you click the button that says join year of inquiry, it scrolls you really fast and immediately down past all the things that you can read. And you can also read them too, they're pretty cool. They have some things about change in there, just like what we've mentioned today. Then you would go down and you'll see all the ways that you can sign up, all the investment options. Basically, there's either with solo sessions or without, and there's just paying month to month for the 10 months, or there's paying all at once in one fell swoop. So that's why there's 4 different buttons, so that you can really pick and make sure which one that you want. And then the secure pay link will hook you up into the right method of, submitting everything and making your payment. And so basically, so just without solo sessions and with solo sessions, and either paying monthly or all at once. So it looks kind of like this. Normal fees like $197 a month for the 9 months, or $18.95 for the year, or $297 with the solo sessions, which is an amazing deal, or $28.95 for the year. So for less than $2,000 for a whole 10-month period, or less than $3,000 for a whole 10-month period of really like a powerful community, staying connected. I just think it's, I don't know, people say that they're so grateful. They really do. So over time, it's shifted and changed, but it seems like it's got its sort of perfect spot that sustains, me and Work with Grace and what we're doing here. And also people can be supported through self-inquiry, which is my favorite thing to do of that. One of the ways that we come to that, or like, if you're thinking about like, wow, how does that work with payments and fees and investments? It's just for comparison's sake. Cost of other transformational work, which if you're like me and like a lot of people that put in that survey from the very beginning, we have spent a lot of money on transformational work. But the school for the work itself, I think, is over $6,500. I can't remember what it was in last March, but that's for 9 days, and that's very normal. And this is, like often, you get done with the school and then you want to just practice the work. You're very excited about just questioning everything. I looked up not long ago a support group in person. The least expensive one I could find was like $475 a month. So that would be, $47.50 for 10 months. Coaching packages seem to go for $5,000 for 6 months. I did just run across a coaching package for eating issues specifically that was $15,000 for 8 weeks. So, I know it's worth it to stop doing what you're doing. This is a way to do that. It really is. Fundamentally, to just kind of like shift the way you're actually seeing things in your world, that you're thinking, just seeing that you're thinking, oh, I'm just thinking. I don't have to be so afraid of that. If you did therapy solo sessions once a week for 10 months, which I've got a bunch of clients that are just on the weekly, kind of do it the usual way, then it's $5,800. And then retreats, many of the retreats that I've visited and gone to, in the end, you're probably paying for like 5 days, $2,500. That's the same price of this whole entire year. And then I actually did like a coach certification training program about I think it was 2008 is when I graduated, and that was $15,500. That was before I tanked in financial and could never spend that kind of money again for quite a long time. So that's a whole, I love my story of money because that went down to the base bottom terrible also. And then I learned a lot about money and questioned many things about money. And so that became much more peaceful as well. But in any case, that's where some of the thinking is around landing in a place that feels really comfortable or just smooth for people as they're putting together like sort of a community that they work with for the year. Once you go there and pick your the method that you want, I wanted to show people this one spot. This is the one if you're doing a monthly payment. This one happens to be the one without solo sessions. And there is something interesting that I started doing a long time ago, is you can give yourself a scholarship, a partial scholarship. Now that won't work with the gift that I'm giving today, because there's only one coupon code, there's only one special box, and it just already brings things down to whatever level. So I just think code of honor, you can look and see what fits right for you. And I'm amazed what people can come up with, how they can gather the resources together to go ahead and join, even if they're unemployed or whatever it is that they're doing. And they just submit and, come in, submit, that was a funny word, but they go ahead and sort it through and figure out how to do it. But I always want to have this as an offering so that people can feel comfortable. Money gets very emotional and they feel nervous and like it's a lot. But I wanted to tell you all what the gift is for today. It is MW Love, and it's just good until August 1st, which I know is just till Tuesday. It's to kind of have, so just let it sift and see if you want to join. A little bit more. So MW Love, this is what it looks like on the coupon code for the payment page that has solo sessions. But it looks really similar depending on, no matter where you go, it might have a little bit of a color difference in the background or something. But the refund policy, if it's before we even start, of course, there's 100% refund. If we haven't even started yet and it's September, we started the week of September 11th, there's a full refund. So if you joined, you can withdraw before we begin. Yes. But also, if we start and we're underway, I actually have kind of an interesting refund policy, but I think it's it just became clear that was really good for the whole program. And that is because it's so high touch, we all get involved, we're starting to get to know each other, that I just request, there's no contract, there's no have to stay until New Year's Eve, December 31st. That's like a 4-month, you're staying September, October, November, December. And then if you think this is not for me, I'm not making the calls for whatever reason, my schedule's changed, no questions asked, you will get a full refund for anything from that point forward. If you've paid in full, you'll get a refund for the portion you haven't used. I have the bookkeeper figure that out. And if you are paying monthly, all the monthly payments just stop. So I hope that kind of takes the edge off of, like, you don't have to sign up for something for an entire year and be in it for the rest of your year. So these are all the things, again, that are included here. Monthly topic, on how to do the work, Q&A. It's an awesome place for doing these workshops on, like, how to do the work on money, how to do the work on your family of origin, ways that have worked for us well for doing that, how to find the turnarounds or live the turnarounds, or turn around to number 6, which is something that's part of the Work of Byron Katie. We have a monthly topic on that. I kind of mentioned those already. You have those choices of 3 different sessions a week. They're all live. that you can come to any of them. They're all recorded. We have a shared calendar that you can look at so you don't miss anything. You're always going to receive an email before any meeting that has the Zoom link in it again. And then we do partner pairing to give and receive facilitation. Marco Polo app. You've got the online forum for messages that we're going to be using. I'm excited to see which we're for sure we're using. Like I said, I think it's going to be Mighty Communities. And then just the optional one for those who sign up, monthly sessions. So I'll show you the URL again in a second, but I love this to end today. And thank you all so much. You are the storyteller, says Byron Katie. You are the storyteller. You've become the stories you told yourself. And you are what lives prior to every story. Story, suffering, inquiry, no story, no suffering. Freedom is possible in every moment. And this beautiful quote from Viktor Frankl, who's one of my favorites. We always have the choice to not be affected by surroundings, circumstances, and situations. And I would like to add to that. We always have the choice not to be affected by our own thinking. Amazing. Or like be open to being affected by it, but not let it be so heavy and intense and traumatic. So, you know, a couple of people sharing their support about Year of Inquiry that people always tend to do by the end of the year. I decided to put on this last slide, but this is the URL link. You'd have to type in to your browser. So just remember it, workwithgrace.com/Year of Inquiry with dashes, year-of-inquiry. And if you just go to Work with Grace and scroll down, you'll see where there's a link to go to Year of Inquiry, because it's probably the main primary program that I offer all the time. And then, you know, if you decide by August 1st to do an early bird sign up, it is $100 off. Oh, did I even say that yet? It's $100 off your first month or your whole payment. So $100 less. MW Love. So Mini Workshop Love. That's what that's for. Just all capital letters put into the coupon code. And I just love seeing who joins, you know, a little bit after you join. It won't happen right away because I'm traveling next week, but a little bit after you join, everyone gets to fill out a like sort of a get to know me little interview, so I can just see where you're at with even your experience with the work, which for some people is 0. I am brand new beginner. And some people are very experienced. They've been to like a bunch of schools for the work. I mean, we have everybody in between. People know that they love practicing self-inquiry. They really love it. And they love the community and different things that they're working on. Like I want to be in Year of Inquiry this year while I am like building my business. And I want to be in Year of Inquiry this year and really look at this eating problem that I have, or procrastination issue, and kind of stay close to it and stay with it. And especially with all the great wisdom of that piece that everybody has available and accessible to them, you know. So anyway, thank you so much. I hope you got what you came for today, got something. I'm going to send out a follow-up, everybody who was here, so you can just let me know. But meanwhile, now, if you have any questions whatsoever, I would love to answer them. You can put them in the Q&A box. I think that's where I'm going to see them quickest. I know for some reason, I can't seem to get the chat off being disabled, but put it in the Q&A box and then I'll see them. So thank you all. Absolutely wonderful to have you. Okay. Oh, somebody's asking. This got asked on the very first one as well, that I did today. What is different about this from the Eating Peace program? So, okay, so some of you know about my Eating Peace program. So Year of Inquiry was first, and it's like my baby of the community building and the way the program is. And Eating Peace began to seem to be really clearly needed because there's so much shame and people have so much trouble with food and eating. Usually every year I start that around like November 1st or November 5th-ish or something, and we carry it through at least the Western winter. I'm thinking about it being a shorter program this year. I'm not completely positive yet, but it will still happen. There will be something that goes on in the winter. And the difference is just, we have like one live session a week, and then we might have a Q&A session every week. And then there's actually curriculum that you follow. There's a little bit of, there's some curriculum in Year of Inquiry because we have those monthly workshops. But this kind of has some things that, in other words, that you watch that I pre-make, and then you're going to watch them. And then the gatherings of live, we just to do it like a different thought or kind of thought stream or belief system that we're looking at every week. Sometimes, often this has happened. People have asked me sometimes if they can take both at the same time. No, I say no, it's too much. Just wait. Sometimes people have been in one program and then they get through that with the Eating Peace program, and then the following year they want to come into Year of Inquiry. So, or vice versa. That's okay to do. I do encourage people to go ahead and come into Year of Inquiry, even if you have something that's really got a troubling issue that looks like compulsion, addiction, self-sabotage, because often, because the self-sabotage is a red herring, you know, it's like the thing that we get really super hyper focused on and want to just grab and fix and change. But remember, it's a false scent. There's something else underneath it, like it's been visiting for really good reasons. And by sitting in your own thinking and your history and your past, and looking at anything else that rises around situations that have happened in your life and relationships, and I especially encourage people to go back to family of origin, mother, father, sister, brother, and just look at how you are seeing the world, that this sabotage would come up and rise in the middle of it. And then look at that instead. Like, look at what you're thinking and believing that just seems stressful. You don't even have to see a connection like, oh, maybe that's the reason why, so I'm going to do the work on that. Just let the sabotage behavior live. Because anytime I ever thought this is my last day, it never was. One day there was a last day, right? One day it was the last day and it was over. And I didn't know that until I looked back and went, oh, look at that, it was over. I didn't know that until later. And I think that might happen for everybody, I don't know. And just the management of making it stop it hasn't worked very well. So looking at all the underlying feelings that we have running about our families and our safety and our survival and traumatic experience completely affects how we are showing up and reacting, and all that stuff that we're doing with behavior, like just having it be okay that it's there and don't worry about it so much, is really kind of wonderful. So I hope that answers your question. That answers the question. Yeah, somebody else was asking about the same thing before. That in any case, the Eating Peace program is definitely a shorter, more immersive experience, and it's great too. This is kind of like really building the community for the whole year. Okay. I don't see any other questions coming. I don't see any other questions, it looks like. Somebody asked, could you show the price page again? Yes, and this is all be on the website too. But there you go. So $197 a month for 10 months, or $18.95 if you pay all at once. And then of course that's going to be less. So the first, you put in this MWLOVE into the coupon code, and the very first month you're going to pay $97, not $197. And then continue from there, it'll be $197 or $17.95 for the whole year. Or with solo sessions, $197. And $27.95. So that's how it works. First early bird, early registration will be $100 off. And that's just for you all that are in the mini workshop. So you know how this page right here says eBird Love? That is an accurate thing for anyone anywhere in the world who is registering by August 20th. You get eBird Love encouragement to register early so that we can get ready for you and, you know, get organized. That's $50 off. You can't use them both at the same time. There's only one gift coupon code box, but MWLOVE is the way to go to come on in early and have it be $100 off instead. So it's extra early bird. All right. Well, thank you all so much for your wonderful time together. Oh, somebody just said I'm in summer camp, and I didn't realize that. Okay, so yeah, summer camp is happening right now. If anybody wants to get a chance to join summer camp for the second session, that starts August 14th, Monday, August 14th, and it ends on September 8th. And it is just a blitz of open inquiry calls. So the only part that's similar is in the year of inquiry, all those live sessions that we have every week, those 3 live sessions, it's very similar to that. We just meet for 1 hour, everybody gathers. It's kind of like, I think of it as being a big campground that's open, and the campfires are burning for you to have inquiry circles. And, you know, Mondays it's at 4 o'clock and Tuesdays it's at 9 o'clock. This is all Pacific time. I just think Pacific time in my own time zone, of course. And if you want to, you can join like summer camp only. That's a whole month-long session that is coming up, is $47, and it's sliding scales. It starts at 47. And some people, if they know they're coming to every single call for the rest of the summer, or, you know, like watching all the recordings because everything's recorded, then some people have elected to pay more and contribute more for whatever they're doing in summer camp, but you really get to pick. So August all the way to September, it's a great way to get a feel for year of inquiry if you're really not sure. You know, if it's like, oh, that's a big long commitment. And remember, you know, you can do it for 4 months and then withdraw if that feels right. But if you have any questions, you can also, anyway, so thank you for the person who's here from summer camp. Is that, yes, anyone can still join summer camp. And there's plenty of time. We're just finishing the first session this very Friday. And so then there's a gap while I travel, and then 4 more weeks of summer camp. And it's just open to absolutely anybody. So you'll definitely get a feel for what group inquiry is like. And the people are fabulous. I love it. And there's some sessions where there's so many that we offer. There's 6 every single week. Kelly is also there for the summer camp sessions. She's on Thursdays. If you wanted to join, sometimes people have been there only one-on-one. And so it's like you're getting you're having a solo focus of something that's really important to you in your life. And I'm there facilitating you, and I just love it. It's awesome. What a gift. So it's a great time to really kind of get the feel for this self-inquiry process and see how it works for you. So I encourage it. And the last thing I want to tell you that just reminded me is anyone who wants to, you can go to my website, workwithgrace.com, and right there on that first page is book a call with Grace. And one of the call options is not a paid call, but you can get on my schedule for a 15-minute consult. And we can just meet, and you can say, here are my questions. These are my concerns. This is what I'm thinking. I'm not sure about this part, or whatever. Or you can write me an email, Grace@workwithgrace. But you really are welcome to set up an appointment to meet with me, to ask me any questions. I'm very, very happy to answer anything, just anything. So I just absolutely love doing this work, and I love all the people that show up to do it with me. So I think of the year of inquiry as for me. It is for me. All right. Fabulous to be with everybody. Thank you for your wonderful time and attention. Yeah. Lots of love to you. Bye-bye.